A fast-moving winter storm is on its way, affecting areas a bit farther south than the recent systems we have been tracking. We will begin by discussing the timing of this storm, and then we will look at how much snow or ice your part of the country might receive. Following that, we will review a time frame I am monitoring for early next week, and then we will look ahead to the forecast for the remainder of December. A very good Thursday morning to you. I hope you are all doing well and have had a wonderful week so far. If you find this information helpful, I would be grateful if you subscribed or liked the video. As always, if there is anything I can keep in my thoughts for you, please let me know in the comments below. Now, let's take a look at the weather. This is the system we are currently monitoring. The system is already in progress. We are seeing snow across Oklahoma and a large area of moisture. This is translating to some good, old-fashioned rain down in the deep south. We do have some snow squalls over the Northeast and New England, and we will talk more about that toward the end of our discussion. Some lake-effect snow also continues in the Great Lakes region. Outside of those areas, things are relatively quiet. There is a storm system entering the Pacific Northwest, but our primary focus is right here. So, let us take a closer look at this situation. If you have been following my last couple of updates, you may recall that I mentioned the potential for a concentrated zone of precipitation, somewhere in the panhandle of Texas and into parts of Oklahoma. It appears we now have a rather intense band of snow and sleet developing there. If you are watching from this area, I would be very interested to hear what you are seeing. I would love to read your reports in the comments, so please do share them below. It certainly appears to be some rather heavy snow and sleet out there. I have reviewed the actual real-time observations, and people are indeed reporting both snow and sleet from this system. Please let me know how much has accumulated on the ground, if any at all. The radar is also showing some precipitation beginning to move into northern Arkansas and the southwestern areas of Missouri. I am not certain if this is reaching the ground just yet, but a wintry mix is expected in these areas, as well as in western parts of Tennessee later on this afternoon. To the south, this is simply a good, old-fashioned, and I would say, a much-needed rain. There may even be some thunderstorms down in the southern parts of Louisiana. Now, let's move on to the official watches, warnings, and advisories. We do have winter weather advisories currently in effect. You may remember we discussed in last night's video that we expected some of the special weather statements to be upgraded to advisories, and that is what has happened. We have these for Oklahoma City, Norman, and extending all the way over to Tulsa. We will see if any are issued in Arkansas or perhaps areas of Tennessee today. For now, we just have special weather statements for those regions. These statements indicate that a wintry mix is expected this afternoon through the late evening. We will discuss the timing of that as we move forward. We also have some winter weather advisories in the Cumberland Plateau. There are some winter weather advisories in the western areas of North Carolina, the northern parts of North Carolina from the Triad into the Triangle. A significant portion of Virginia also has winter weather advisories, including areas of West Virginia. This does include Richmond, Roanoke, and Lynchburg. I hope you can see this graphic clearly. However, as of right now, the advisories stop south of the Washington, D.C. area. I could see some of these areas being upgraded to a winter storm warning, but that is something we will have to continue to monitor. I believe if that does happen, it will occur during the storm itself, but we will continue to assess the situation. So, let's go over the evolution and the timeline of this winter storm. We will start around midday today. We do have some winter weather starting to move into Arkansas. On the map, the blue color represents snow, the purple is sleet, and if you see some pink, that indicates freezing rain. So, we are going to see a wintry mix across areas of Arkansas, starting late this morning and continuing into the midday and early afternoon hours today. Let us continue to move this forecast forward. By the time we get to around 4 to 5 o'clock, the time frame is indicated up here. Just remember to adjust back 1 hour if you are in the central time zone. We see some winter weather moving into the Memphis area and points north, possibly even Jonesboro. In fact, the model shows some plain snow just north of Memphis. It indicates sleet in Memphis, but it could be a combination of precipitation types. It might be entirely sleet, or a rain and sleet mix. But let's not get too lost in the precise details. There are special weather statements in effect for a wintry mix later on this afternoon and into this evening. Now, as we continue to move forward, let's shift our focus a little farther to the east. This is an area where the storm could perform stronger than expected. In my opinion, this storm system has overachiever written all over it. So, we start to get to about 7 or 8 o'clock this evening, around dinner time, and the model shows snow moving directly into Nashville. This extends as far north as Bowling Green, Kentucky, and also includes Clarksville and Jackson, Tennessee, where it is snowing. Murfreesboro, Tennessee, You also have snow in the forecast. As we continue to advance this into the later evening hours, this is 9-10 o'clock. The model still shows it snowing in Nashville. I am not certain if this is exactly how it will unfold, but we could see a wintry mix as far south as areas below Nashville in the southern parts of Tennessee. As we continue to move forward, could it start as a wintry mix in a place like Knoxville? You can see the Tennessee Valley quite well right here, between the Cumberland Plateau and the mountains of North Carolina and Tennessee. Could we get a brief wintry mix in Knoxville in the Tennessee Valley? Absolutely. At this point, it becomes a matter of monitoring the real-time observations. We will just have to see how everything unfolds. But this model shows straightforward snow moving into the southern areas of Kentucky. We also have snow moving into areas of southwest Virginia, and as we continue to move forward here, we are starting to get into about midnight tonight, and this is showing heavy snow. And notice, the latest high-resolution model has this as snow in the Johnson City and Tri-Cities area of Tennessee. So this is a new development. It appears it is now cold enough for the precipitation to start as snow in these areas. I know I have a lot of people following from this region. So, let us hope this forecast is accurate for those of you who are winter weather fans. It is showing snow in areas of eastern Kentucky and into the northeastern parts of Tennessee. Any winter weather should be ending in Nashville around midnight tonight. Then, this quick-hitting snowstorm begins to move into areas of Virginia and the surrounding states. And as it arrives, wherever that rain-snow line is located, just to the north of it, you are going to see very heavy, wet snow, but you will be very close to that dividing line. If you are to the south, it is likely to be what we call white rain, where snowflakes melt just before reaching the ground. Or it could simply be rain. This model shows heavy snow moving into Roanoke and Lynchburg, with moderate snow moving into Richmond. This is occurring around 1 to 2 o'clock in the morning tonight. So, this system has trended much faster. If you were thinking this would move in during the morning commute in these areas, that is no longer the case. It is now expected to move in much earlier, just after midnight. So, Beckley will be getting some snow. It is snowing just north of Hickory. This is showing just rain. In Charlotte and Greensboro, it will be rain at first, but if this model is correct, we continue to move forward, and it begins to switch to a wintry mix as we get to 3, 4, and 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. Then, we start to transition to a period of snow. We may see sleet in Hickory, while in Danville, it is all snow. The same is true for Richmond and Petersburg. It is possible you could start with some snow in Norfolk and the Hampton Roads area. Absolutely. As you can see, a little bit of snow is trying to move into the Tidewater region. It is snowing across a good portion of Virginia where precipitation is falling. It will be snow except for the far southeastern corner of the state. As we continue on, and we start to get into, say, 6 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock in the morning, the sun will be starting to come up, and it will still be snowing in Greensboro. It will be snowing in Danville, and southwest Virginia will still be seeing heavy snow. In Asheville and Boone, particularly the Boone and Banner Elk area, you have winter weather advisories for a reason. You are going to get a solid snow to wintry mix type of situation. I believe it could stay all snow there. If you get down here toward Nashville, I just do not believe the high pressure associated with a cold air damming event is in a favorable position to produce any heavy winter weather from this. But we shall see. Now for Charlotte, Concord, and Salisbury. It is possible, especially near Salisbury and certainly near Statesville, that you could begin as a wintry mix, but then that would eventually switch to rain. I could see that happening as far south as Charlotte, but I think 95% of this storm for you will be a good, old-fashioned cold rain. As we continue to the end of this storm's duration, there could be some lingering energy behind it. So, this is somewhat new. This is around 10 o'clock Friday morning. There are still some areas of light, snow, and wintry mix out here, and we continue to track the bulk of the storm up here. There will be some snow up here in Delaware and the Washington, D.C. area. As we keep this going, it could taper off to some snow around Richmond, and perhaps even Salisbury up here in Maryland, closer to Delaware, as we start to move into early Friday afternoon, and then the storm finally comes to an end. Are we going to get any activity up in the New York City or New Jersey area? I think it is possible, but for now, the forecast looks mainly dry up there. However, there is a possibility this system could trend farther north over the next 12 to 24 hours, so we must watch that. Many times, these types of systems like to track farther north than what is being modeled. Now, as far as how much snow is expected, let's update this information. This is for Arkansas. A touch of accumulating snow is possible in the northwestern areas of the state. Fayetteville is forecast for 0.2 of an inch of snow. It could be snowing in these areas already. But we are not forecasting any accumulations in central Arkansas. But if you look at the latest high-resolution model run, it does show a touch of snow, a dusting of sorts east of Little Rock and into the Memphis area. It actually projects 0.3 of an inch of snow in Memphis and across the eastern and northeastern sections of the state. And then we look at Kentucky, and we look at Tennessee. A few tenths of an inch of snow is possible in these areas based on the National Weather Service forecast, but they are certainly not anticipating much snow in these locations. Just a dusting here and there, enough to make the ground white. But if you look at the high-resolution model run, and I want to show you this for comparison, you see, it shows a band of snowfall accumulation right through the heart of Middle Tennessee, starting from Memphis and going up to Jackson. For Nashville, it shows 0.4 of an inch of snow. Even areas south of Nashville, between Columbia and Nashville, are showing an inch of snow in these blue-shaded regions. Cookeville is also forecast for an inch of snow. We do have winter weather advisories in effect for this area. And now, the latest data is indicating 0.8 of an inch of snow in Johnson City. The next run of the HRRR model, which gives us that longer-range view, will be available in the next hour or so, and we will see what that shows. However, one thing I am noticing is a trend toward more winter weather for the Tri-Cities area, which is in northeastern Tennessee for those who may not know. Now, I do not want to guarantee that, as the official National Weather Service forecast is not calling for much in this particular area. It does suggest some dusting amounts. For Knoxville, 0.1 of an inch of snow, with a little bit of snow in the Smoky Mountains. The models do not favor that area a great deal, but we will certainly keep a close eye on it. And now we can begin to look at the heart of the storm. I do want to start by showing you all. Let me just check if we have a new update. We do not. We will look at the Greenville-Spartanburg area, which covers southwestern North Carolina and the surrounding communities. Here in Marion, 0.3 of an inch of snow. Burnsville, 0.4. Newland could receive an inch of snow, and Hickory up toward Lenoir is looking at a couple of tenths of an inch of snow. This is just enough to provide a dusting, but these areas right in here have the potential to see higher amounts. I am telling you right now, they certainly could. And I will show you a run of the HRRR model for these areas as well. A little bit of ice is possible in that region, though I do not expect a large amount. I truly do not believe we will see enough freezing rain in any of these areas to cause any significant impacts. I really do not. But let us take a look at Raleigh here. Durham, which is just north of Raleigh, is expecting 0.5 an inch of snow. Henderson, also 0.5 an inch. Roxborough, 0.5 an inch of snow. Greensboro and Winston-Salem are also looking at 0.5 an inch. But please keep in mind, these are the areas that could potentially see more. And as for those freezing rain totals, I will show you. As you can see, they are not calling for much, so there is no need to expand this particular graphic. Next, let us turn our attention to Virginia. A couple of inches of snow is in the forecast. So, they have definitely increased these snowfall totals. This is the actual forecast from the National Weather Service. It is calling for a couple to a few inches of snow in these areas. For Roanoke and Blacksburg, anywhere from 2 to 3 inches of snow is possible in these regions. There you have it, calling for 2 to 3 inches now. And for Mount Airy as well. As you can tell, this is an updated graphic. In fact, let me see if we have an even newer graphic. We do not. So, this update actually expands some of these heavier snowfall totals farther into northern North Carolina compared to the previous graphic from Raleigh. So, these are certainly some decent snowfall totals, and if you are thinking to yourself that 1 to 2 inches of snow is not very much, or that this is disappointing, please remember, it is only early December. This is going to happen on a Friday, and it is the Christmas season. After all, my advice is to take this and enjoy it. If they were calling for 1 to 2 inches of snow at my own house in early December, I would be very happy indeed. We will just leave it at that. Now, let us look at areas of eastern Virginia. The forecast is not calling for much in the Hampton Roads area, which includes the Norfolk region. However, once you get west of this area, from Richmond to Petersburg, 1 to 2 inches of snow is possible, and these areas could see higher amounts as well. So, they have increased the snowfall totals for this area. And then we move into the Tidewater and the Delmarva Peninsula. A few tenths of an inch of snow is possible in these areas right here in southern Maryland. This is enough to make the ground white. In my opinion, this would certainly be enough to put you in the Christmas spirit. A little bit of freezing rain is possible in this area, and I will show it to you. A few hundredths of an inch, but as I said, it would only be a light glaze. I do not think that is going to be a significant issue at all. Now let us move up here and let's refresh this. Let's see if we have any new information. We do not. A few tenths of an inch of snow is possible. As we get down near Fredericksburg, an inch is forecast. Charlottesville, an inch and a little more. For Washington and Baltimore, around half an inch of snow is possible, and is indeed in the forecast right now. This is enough to put a nice coating on the ground. And then I want to turn our attention a little farther north. For Delaware in general, they are forecasting around a half an inch of snow for the entire state, and the southern half of New Jersey could get a touch of snow as well. Now, I do want to take a look at the HRRR model. Specifically, the HRRR model's forecast for snow. It is calling for more substantial totals. It is forecasting a solid 2 to 2.5 inches in Hickory. There is an area right here where North Carolina connects to southwestern Virginia, where the model is forecasting over half a foot of snow in this pink shaded area. For Roanoke, a good 3 inches. But it really seems to be targeting one area. If any location is going to be upgraded to a winter storm warning, let's go back and look at this map. It is going to be this region right here, and I believe some winter weather advisories are going to be issued for these regions as well. So, if any area is going to overperform and meet that winter storm warning criteria, it is going to be right here in southwestern Virginia and even into the northwestern areas of North Carolina. But this model is forecasting 2 inches of snow in Richmond and a small area of over 3 inches just south of Richmond. It shows around an inch in Charlottesville, so not a great deal there. The HRRR model really keeps this system farther south, but it does bring 1 to 2 inches of snow into the Tidewater and areas of the Delmarva Peninsula, including Maryland and southern Maryland, into areas of southern Delaware. And it also shows the potential for an inch or two of snow in Johnson City. Now, if we look at the NAM model, the pattern is quite similar, but everything is shifted farther to the north. As a result, this model only shows 1/10 of an inch of snow for Hickory. Greensboro is forecast for only 7/10 of an inch of snow, so everything in that scenario is pushed farther to the north, and that is a realistic possibility. I do want to mention a sounding. Please note, this system has trended faster, so, while most of you will be asleep, if you think this will not begin until the sun comes up tomorrow, you would be mistaken. And for those of you who are winter weather fans, if you want to see that beautiful, falling snow, if you truly want to create that wonderful atmosphere where it is the middle of the night, it is perfectly silent, and the snow is just coming down in sheets, while the rest of the world is asleep. You know the kind of scene in those videos you see online, where people are just looking out into the darkness at huge, beautiful snowflakes falling? Well, this is going to be the scene probably in Roanoke after midnight tonight, or right around midnight. We expect heavy snow to move in at 1 o'clock in the morning. So, I have clicked the sounding right here in southwestern Virginia. We will try not to get too technical, but it is 28 degrees at the surface, shown in this red line, and then you see that green line, that is the 27-degree dew point. So, the dew point is running right alongside the air temperature at the surface, which means the air is very moist. This is not a case where you have a dew point of 10 and an air temperature of 28, where you would have to first saturate the atmosphere in the lower levels. The atmosphere here is already saturated all the way up to about 20, 30, or even 40,000 feet up in the air before some dry air is introduced. But when you see the green line right up against the red line like that, with the dew point right up against the temperature, and you have the 500 millibar level that is 18,000 feet up and the air column is super saturated, that means that the atmosphere is simply going to unload snow, if it is cold enough aloft. And it is, because if you look at this blue line right here, this is the 32-degree freezing line aloft, and this entire column, temperature-wise, is below that 32-degree line. So this is going to fall as all snow. There is a little warm nose, as we call it, but it is not warm enough to cross over that 32-degree line and melt these snowflakes, which would cause this to fall as a wintry mix, or just rain. It is cold enough in all levels of the atmosphere, and the column is what we call supersaturated. So, all the available moisture in the atmosphere is going to fall as a heavy, wet snow. Therefore, these snowflakes will clump together, creating these very large, beautiful snowflakes, and it is just going to be a pretty snow. It really is. So, please, enjoy that. I am a little jealous, maybe very jealous, but I just wanted to explain what could happen in certain areas, and how, when you get these conditions, a lot of times you can see totals that exceed the forecast. You can get 2 inches of snow in an hour. It happens quite often. Now, I do want to mention a time frame for early next week. This is something I have been watching, and while it has trended away from our area, as we start to move into Sunday morning, a lot of moisture is still going to be with us down here in the southeast. However, we have a clipper system diving in. This is going to bring some moderate snow across areas of the Midwest, and as this dives in, there tries to be a bit of phasing with that southern energy, and I believe there is. We just do not have enough cold air pressing down. There is some connection here, but this results in mainly rain, shown in green, across areas of the southeast, with snow falling where it normally snows in early December. But as we move past this, the question is there any kind of connection? This turns into a quick-hitting snowstorm up north on Monday morning, but for us, not really. We will see a little bit of backside snow from the northwest flow in the Appalachian Mountains, but nothing significant. We are not seeing that very active GFS model run we were seeing a couple of days ago. Not last night, but the night before last. So, that particular scenario has gone away. Now, after we move past that, we continue to see more energy. Here comes another clipper system diving in across the Midwest. This could bring some more snow. This is into Wednesday, and then as we get into Thursday of next week, it does show a little bit of snow getting as far south as the Smoky Mountains and the central Appalachians here in West Virginia. And then after that, it is hard to say what happens. As we get into next weekend, we will have to wait for more clarity on that. All right. What about the latest European model? This will only go out 144 hours, so we might have to switch our view here. But it shows the same thing. As we get deeper into the weekend, some moisture remains with us down here in the deep south, and here comes another clipper. This will probably bring some more snow across the Midwest. It even shows some heavier snow in Iowa as we are getting into Sunday morning. It could be a festive day on Sunday across Chicago and other areas of the Midwest. Is there any connection here? The model does try to develop something. There is some moisture present and a little bit of snow in the mountains and higher elevations, but it is mainly just a cool rain. And then after that, we get into the middle of next week, and another clipper dives through the Great Lakes region. This is as far out as this particular model view goes. And then we have another system about to dive in. For that, we will go back to the OZ European model, and it does show a large trough diving in, which shows some higher elevation snow with it. We will certainly have to see how that situation unfolds. I am hopeful that it does, as I will be heading to the mountains on Wednesday night into Thursday, so it would be quite pleasant to see a little bit of snow. We will watch to see if that materializes. Beyond that time, it is difficult to say. As I mentioned, once we look past this time next week, the forecast becomes quite uncertain. But if you examine the European ensemble model, you can see a clipper system diving in from the Midwest. This is shown in 24-hour increments. Snowfall is possible, and we are looking at snowfall in 24-hour periods as we move forward into Sunday. Then, as we get into Monday, you can observe light signals across the Ohio Valley and the Northeast. Following that, we have another indication of a clipper system moving in. And then, a larger trough has the potential to move into the region. This appears to be another rather potent clipper system. It is essentially bringing snow to areas that have already been experiencing it. As we approach Friday, there is a signal for some northwest flow activity reaching as far south as the mountains of North Carolina and Tennessee. But after that, the forecast is less certain. I know I continue to say that, but there is truly no point in looking too far beyond the 7-day mark. However, this model does extend all the way out to 240 hours, which is 10 days, by the way. It shows the footprint of snow primarily across the northern tier of the country. This area right here is mainly from the system that is on its way over the next 24 to 48 hours. So, there is no signal between now and next week for any kind of deep south snow, but I was not really anticipating any. I have been discussing at length how this is going to be a northern stream-dominated pattern, and you can see that clearly here on the smoothed-out European ensemble model. This begins this coming Sunday. You can see there is some energy diving in here that could potentially phase, but it does not appear that it will. And after that, there may be some energy right here, but this looks to be mainly dominated by the northern stream. When I say that, I mean that all of our weather-making energy is diving in from Canada. We will have to watch if any energy can develop and strengthen down here, allowing for some sort of connection. But most of this energy is arriving from the north, and that continues to appear to be the case moving forward. Then, as we get into late next week, we have a trough that attempts to dig in and suggests the possibility of more energy moving south. However, I still do not believe this will phase with any southern stream energy to become a major storm system. The models could trend in that direction, but we are beginning to run out of. I would not say we are running out of time, but we are entering a time frame where if the pattern is going to shift one way or the other, it really needs to begin doing so now, in my opinion. It does show some energy moving quite far south, which to me suggests some rather active clipper-type energy diving southward. At the end of the day, that results in northwest flow conditions for the mountains, and then the trough retreats back to the north. And that makes sense when you look at the overall pattern here. The blue colors represent a trough of low pressure, while the yellows, oranges, and reds indicate areas of high pressure ridging. So, as we are getting into the middle of next week, we have a trough over the central and eastern areas of the country. It appears to dig down once again. That is a signal right there for me, as we get into next Thursday and Friday, for a blast of potential Arctic air. It will be very cold air diving down once again around this time next week. And when you see this greenish color embedded within the blue, it means this trough is digging very deeply, so it could certainly bring a shot of cold air. Is there any energy associated with it? Absolutely. But that does not mean we are going to get a huge storm system. That system dives in and then moves out of the region rather quickly. Then we have this ridge that tries to build in around the middle of the month. There has been some discussion about a mid-month warm-up, and I think that is very possible, even likely. I just do not think it is going to last for very long, and you can already see that as we get into the week leading up to Christmas. Well, I should say the last weekend before Christmas, the blue colors start to appear once again for the eastern United States. So, it simply does not look to be a long-lasting warm spell, and the overall pattern does not support it. And if we look at temperatures compared to the average, the blues and the greens represent below-average temperatures. What you are going to see here as we move into next week is that in the eastern United States, we could have a brief warm-up, perhaps Wednesday into Thursday of next week across the south, and then there is a strong signal for another powerful cold front late in the next work week. The cold air then reestablishes itself over the eastern United States. How long that remains with us is something we will have to wait and see, but there is a fairly strong signal for a ridge building across the south-central United States, and you can see the cold air beginning to build back in at the end of the model run. Then at the very end, you can see the blue colors return. So I believe our next focus, after this winter storm on the way over the next 48 hours, will be this next trough digging in around this time next week, and what it might bring. So that will be the next topic of discussion. But if we look at the MJO, and let's update this browser here and go back down to look at the European model. Yes, so this is the new information we have, and we have been discussing this quite a bit, so let's examine this more closely. Phase 6, 5, and 4 are typically warm phases across most of the country. Phase 8, 1, and 2 are cold phases, which bring us more opportunities for winter weather. Phase 7 and Phase 3 are what we consider transitional phases. We have just departed Phase 7, and we are now in Phase 8. But just because we enter Phase 8, which I will mention is a very good phase for cold and winter weather chances in December, even for areas farther to the south, does not mean the atmosphere instantly changes. It does not mean we will suddenly see significant winter storms all the way down to Mobile, Alabama. That is simply not what it means. There is normally a lag period. There is some debate on whether that lag is a few days or a couple of weeks. I believe someone I read on social media last night said it very well. We are currently in what you might call a false Phase 8, because its effects have not yet fully reached the surface, but I do believe that will change. So, these 3 points right here, this was yesterday, which stands for December the 3rd. We are now on December the 4th, so we are between the 3 and the 5, correct? But the forecast shows us remaining in Phase 8 for a long period of time. It could dip into what is sometimes called the circle of death, though I prefer to call it the circle of confusion. This simply represents a low-amplitude version of whatever phase we are in, so it would have a weaker impact on the actual weather pattern. But let's not focus too much on that. We are in Phase 8, and we will have to see what happens. Do we get settled into it for a while? If we do, then it is inevitable that the atmosphere will respond. Now, as for today's weather, I do want to mention the snow squalls across the Northeast. We have them ongoing right now, and it is going to be windy. A strong surge of Arctic air is going to move in. It is very cold for our friends out west of this area, where temperatures are well below zero. We will speak on that in the north-central United States here in a moment. But we are going to have some wispy snow squalls across this area. It will not add up to a great deal, but it is going to be brutally cold. And here are the predicted wind gust swaths from the National Weather Service for today. We could see some 30, 40, or even 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts with some of these snow squalls. So please be aware that we will more than likely see some snow squall warnings issued. Not a great deal of snow from this, though. I will look at the snowfall forecast. Some areas could receive a few inches of snow from this, but please do not expect a large amount. Now we are going to move past the southeast because we have already talked about it, and then we will move past the south-central United States because we already spoke on that. But I do want to begin with the north-central United States. These are the current temperatures right now across areas of Iowa and Minnesota. It is 10 to 15 degrees below zero. This is not the feels-like temperature. This is the actual air temperature. It is brutally cold across these areas. and I will take a look at the upper Midwest as well, and it is just frigid. It certainly feels like January. As for any other weather, it is just brutally Arctic air, and any snow that does fall will accumulate very easily. We have some snow flurries around here in the northern sections of Minnesota. There is a little bit of lake effect snow coming off Lake Superior into the area and into sections of the upper peninsula of Michigan. Then we have a clipper system diving in. This will add to the snow totals later tonight. And then by the time we get into tomorrow morning, light to moderate snow will be flying around, embedded in this trough. It is just very cold, producing a very dry snow that is just going to fly around. It will not be the heavy, wet snow that sticks to everything. But as for conditions out west, we do have a new storm system that we are trying to understand. We have snow in the higher elevations and rain in the lower elevations. And as we start to move into tonight, the northern Rockies will begin to get heavy snow. Then we will have to see what happens with this system next. Temperatures are very, very cold. These are high temperatures, just brutally cold across the Midwest, points north, and the interior of the Northeast. It is simply cold everywhere. We also have some cold air in the Southeast. Florida is quite pleasant, resting in the 70s and 80s, and these are the temperatures out west. Alright, let's make this our timestamp and turn to our Bible devotion. I am running low on time, but we always make time for reflection. So, this morning, we are in Romans, chapter 12, verses 19 through 21. Now is a good time for the young folks to go on and get ready for school. It says, "Friends, do not avenge yourselves. Instead, leave room for God's wrath, because it is written, 'Vengeance belongs to me. I will repay,' says the Lord. But if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. For in so doing, you will be heaping fiery coals on his head. Do not be conquered by evil, but conquer evil with good." I think many people have probably heard the phrase about heaping fiery coals on someone's head. I have always found that to be a powerful image. But the message is, do not seek revenge against your enemy, for God has that handled. Instead, show love to your enemy. This will often cause them to feel conviction for what they have done. Sometimes that conviction can make them angrier, and sometimes it does the opposite. Regardless, at least a small seed of shame is planted that could eventually drive them to change their ways. Alright? Now, one way that I personally struggle with my enemies is through sarcasm. I can be very sarcastic, and I have talked with you all about that before. And if that sarcasm is not coming from a good place, and most of the time it is not, then it is probably not the right way to handle things. So, for me personally, that is certainly something I need to improve upon. And before I conclude, I would like to share one final thought with you all. I have learned to feel a genuine compassion for some folks, and I say that with all sincerity. I am referring to people who act in a disagreeable or even a malicious way. And I would estimate, just to propose a statistic for our discussion, I would say that 95% of the time, that behavior stems from a personal struggle they are experiencing, something from their past, or a challenge they are currently facing. They may not know how to properly process their situation. The truth of the matter is, most people in this world have difficulty managing their own emotions. They cannot pause in the moment and recognize, I am reacting poorly. They do not see that they are treating another person this way because of their own personal turmoil. And whether that turmoil is self-inflicted or not, the emotional response often hurts other people. I simply try to remember that this person is likely going through something difficult or has endured a terrible experience, because it is hard for me to believe that people are simply born to behave that way as they grow older. It is a very perplexing thing. As you know, I manage our online community here, so I do encounter a great deal of negativity. I read many unkind comments. Typically, they come from individuals who hide behind an anonymous profile with no picture, simply typing from behind a screen, and my intention is not to focus on myself, but I can honestly say it does not upset me any longer. It used to, I will admit. It would certainly get me stirred up, and I would find myself typing responses to people, trying to reason with them, but these days, I do not even bother. On rare occasions, I might offer a brief reply, but that is all I have on that subject. Thank you all for joining me today. God bless each and every one of you. As I mentioned in last night's video, I have been finding it challenging to get into a good rhythm with these updates. It has truly been a struggle. So, I am hopeful we can get back on track. I felt I struggled a bit at the beginning of this video as well. I hope we can find that comfortable flow again very soon. Often, I will go back and listen to myself, and I will think, well, that was not quite as disjointed as it felt at the time. I do hope it has been clear for you. You all have a wonderful day. We will connect again and sort things out this evening.